Hello and welcome to Habano News. Where are all the Cuban cigars? This is the question everybody has been asking for the past few years. Since COVID, prices have gone up and cigars are nowhere to be found. Last month, I was at the Dubai Duty Free. Dubai Duty Free is, or used to be, the best place on the planet to find Cuban cigars with the Beirut duty free. I visited three shops inside the duty free, and this is a video I made that sums up basically what I found. This shop used to be stacked full of Cuban cigars, and now, as you can see, there is not one single stick of Cuban cigar. Only non Cubans, brands I had never heard about. Not one single Cuban cigar stick. There was no Cuban cigars, not even one single stick. So, what are people saying? Generally, people are blaming the Chinese. I've heard so many stories. Chinese come, buy everything. So this is now a common understanding that the Chinese are taking all the Cuban cigars. Is it true? I don't think so. First, in 2020, a Chinese company purchased 50% of Habanos. Since then, the market has been reorganized and China has become the biggest market, number one market for Cuban cigars. It's a fact, but it's normal because China is the biggest market in the world by size. There are a lot of people smoking. It's a huge market and there's big demand. So before, Spain, France, Germany, Switzerland, UK were the biggest market. Now it's China. I'm not shocked. It's normal. The Chinese population is much bigger. There's a lot of wealth now in China. People have started to drink wine, enjoy great food, gastronomy, and they want to smoke a good cigar. So this is normal. China has become officially the biggest market, number one market for Habanos. But can we blame the Chinese for this lack of cigars? I don't think so. Why? I made some research and I think that we're blaming the wrong people. Of course, the Chinese, like everyone else, every aficionado, when they travel, they visit a shop and they try to get cigars. Why? Because there is so much demand in the country, in China, that there isn't enough cigars for everybody. And they smoke. Believe me, they smoke. I have mainland Chinese friends. I have Hong Kong friends, Hong Kong Chinese friends. They love their cigars. They know their cigars. And they never have enough. So, like any other people around the world that want to smoke, they try to buy more. So, obviously, a lot of Chinese people, when they're in Spain, when they're in France, when they're in Switzerland, when they're in Germany, they buy Cuban cigars. But there are people we forget that have a huge purchasing power and have been buying Cuban cigar for a long time, and we never talk about them. So today I'm going to talk about the American market. I don't want to start a fight. I'm just going to show you facts because I think that the American market, if not the first, is the second biggest market for Cuban cigars in the world. I know it might sound shocking, but have a look at the information I have, and then you can make up your mind. Of course, there are no official figures, all right? So there is no way to check. But I have some clues, I have some information, and I've done my homework. Here's the information I have. These are facts. I found an article. Here it is, written by Cigar Aficionado. Cigar Aficionado is one of the best magazine, cigar magazine in the world. It's a US magazine. And in this article of Cigar Aficionado of September, October 2009, 14 years ago, written by an American journalist who was the European editor for Cigar Aficionado, called James Suckling. James Suckling is one of my mentors in the wine business, a wine critic, amazing palate. He's also a cigar aficionado. And James Suckling is writing an article in this magazine 14 years ago. I've put a link in the description. You can read it for yourself. I'm not making it up. There's no reason for me to favor China over America. I'm somewhere in the middle. And here in this magazine, this is what you can see or read. At that time, there were talks that the embargo would be lifted. And in the article, James Suckling is saying that when the US embargo is lifted, the Cuban officials at Habanos expect America to be Habano's biggest customer or consumer. So here is what we can read. So there are talks about the embargo being lifted and so on. But what is interesting, if you go down, it says, the funny thing is that we Americans already smoke a lot of Cuban cigars. For years, I have been telling people, including CNN and other organizations in interviews, that Americans illegally buy about 8 to 10 million Cuban sticks a year. But earlier this year, when I was living in Cuba for more than a month, I realized that I was grossly underestimating this amount. Here it is. Habanos SA, which is the owner of the Cuban brands, believe that at that time they were making 100 million sticks a year. Now they're making 100, 100 million, maybe less nowadays. They believe that they estimate the American market was about 20 million sticks. If they make 80 million sticks a year, that is nearly 30%. That's more than 25%. The American is writing, the American market is 25% of the Cuban production. And it says here, but the shocker is that some Cuban cigar merchants believe that the real figure could be as high as 50 million cigars, which is a third at that time of the production, that might end up in the hands of Americans. And furthermore, his writing, he's done interviews in Spain, France, Switzerland, Germany, Belgium, Great Britain, the big European markets. And according to the shopkeepers there, they say that between 20 and 50% of their Cuban cigar sales is going to the Americans through internet or through Americans visiting the shops, travelers. This is huge. Okay? So, according to this article here, it says which is the biggest market for the Cuban cigars. And he says here, he's asked a friend from Habanos, which market he thinks is the biggest in the world. And this friend, Cuban friend, says it's the United States. And he didn't mean when the embargo is dropped. So this is a fact. We cannot accuse James Sackling from being anti-American. He's an American. He nearly fell out of his chair. This is what he's writing here while smoking a Monte Cristo Maravilla, Habano's collection 2005. So, what about now? That's 14 years later. Now, China has become a big market, officially the biggest market for Habanos. But there are cigars from Mexico, Canada going into the US. We know that. From Europe going to the US. We know that. Of course, from Europe going to China also. So, what about now? What clues do we have? I haven't seen, I haven't found any articles talking about the US market. But there is also no information saying that the Americans have stopped buying Cuban cigars. So here's another clue. Here's a website called Bond Roberts. Bond Roberts is a website that puts buyers and sellers together, and they've created an auction site. So sellers can put their Cuban cigar, Cuban cigars or Cuban cigar boxes on auction, and the website is in the UK. And if we look at this website, we can see all the boxes here. And as you can tell, here the first box of cigars for sale is a jar of Ramon Iones Noellas. It's a original edition for Italy, and it's being sold at the moment for the asking price is $1,100. There's 7 more hours to go, and this box is based in France, so the seller is in France. Here, Monte Cristo Dantes 2016 limited edition. The box here is based in the US. Ramon Iones Club Iones, another limited edition for 2015, is based in the US. Here you have a German regional edition located in Germany. It's logical. But if we decide to go here in the advanced search, we can see that there are 72 products currently being auctioned. 72 products. And here, if we select delivery to the US, it will select all the boxes that are based also in the US, because nobody will send boxes directly to the US. And there are 46 boxes out of the 72 being auctioned. There are 46 boxes in the US, and that is 63%. I made the same search a year ago, 19th of July 2022, for a book I'm writing, and there were 59% of the boxes being auctions based in the US. So more than half, nearly about 60% of the boxes for sale on this website, auction on this website, are based in America. That shows us one thing: a lot of boxes are located in the US. Even though there is an embargo, a lot, a massive amount of cigars, of Cuban cigars, make their way to the US. And the sellers not only smoke, but they also sell. So for this auction, the US market is probably, without any doubt, the biggest market. So for me, it just shows, after the article I showed you, that the American market is still there and it's still a big market for Cuban cigars. So here it is, my demonstration. I believe that the American market not only is a big market, but is probably in, if not the first, the second biggest market for Cuban cigars in the world. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. Just go down in the video and click on subscribe. It's very useful for me, and that will enable you to get the next videos. Thank you very much, and goodbye.